Hello and welcome to Warhammer Wednesday. In this video, it's going to be a little bit of a trip down memory lane. I'm going to be looking at the Codex Space Marines. Look how thin it is. It's very thin, it's a soft back. I think it cost me £8 back in the day. It might have even cost me 10, but £8 just feels about right. Look at this book compared to the most recent book that came out, I want to say 2015, even though I bought this last year. Now, one of these books, well, this particular book is £35 now, so a big jump from the £8 book of the past. Firstly, we'll just have a look at the page numbers. So this has a nice rounded 200 pages, and the old book is 48 pages, so a quarter of the size compared to the most recent iteration. This book is printed in China, and the old book is printed in the UK. Now, other than sort of the number of pages and the quality of hardback compared to softback, we're going to look through the entirety of this codex, and then towards the end I'll draw some comparisons with the new Space Marine Codex. So we'll move that out of the way for a moment. Now, this book was actually the first codex that I ever bought myself. I was a child back then, and when I say back then, I mean 1998. Now, when I first got this codex, one of the reasons I got it was actually just for this picture. And this picture shows a Thunderhawk. It shows like a landing pad, dreadnought, command squad, a land speeder. Ironically, only one land speeder, but still. And then it shows 10 land raiders. And I'd never seen these before, and I thought, land raiders, what are these? They're chunky and all the rest of it. So back in 1998, 19 years ago, this army looked huge. Absolutely off the scale. It was something that you'd want to build up and work towards, maybe in blue, or maybe in a colour of your choosing. But back then I bought a little set of 5 Space Marines. They're in the update video. It came with a selection of colours, and black was one of the colours. So a few of my mates had blue armies. I just decided to paint them black. I like the black colour scheme, but yeah, it presented this chapter with a Thunderhawk, and then you got 2 more Thunderhawks there. All of these rhinos, and of course my army is now, well, I'd say definitely bigger than the top army, and model wise probably almost as big as the bottom. Certainly got more tanks and support vehicles and aircraft and things, but it just represents a whole entire army, and I just saw that and just drew so much inspiration from my own force. Now, the one thing you'll see throughout this codex is that most of it is in black and white. So you've got some introduction, why collect Space Marine Army. There's lots of John Blanche artwork and stuff all over. You've got standard army list, so HQ and 2 troops. They shall know no fear, and drop pods. They're the special rules for the Space Marine Army. It's a bit more complicated than that nowadays. You've got the Space Marine Army. Not very much there at all now. Especially when you compare it to sort of like the Horus Heresy books. HQ, you've got a leader, commander or force commander. Everyone just went for the force commander. 60 points, but 3 wounds for the model. Save of 3+. He can be given any equipment. You've got librarian, chaplain, and command squad. And they were your 4 HQ. You either had a force commander, librarian, or a chaplain, or even a command squad to accompany the other HQ choices. Elites just had a Terminator squad, and these guys were absolutely beasts. 42 points, save of 2+. You don't get this 5+ invulnerable save that they now get. Any model, up to 2 of them can have assault cannons, and then obviously they have 2 attacks each. They were really some of the best units in the game. Then you got assault squads, where you have lightning claws or thunder hammers, dreadnoughts and veteran squads. I mean, dreadnoughts, look at their armour, 12, 12, 10, 2 attacks, strength 10. 75 points. It's brilliant. So that was your elites, just those. Troops, you pretty much only had your tactical squad and your scout squad. That was it for troops, just those two. And your transport of a Rhino and Razorback, although they haven't really changed that much at all. Fast attack, you had assault squad, bike squads, attack bikes, scout bike squadron. So even scout bikes were there sort of 19 years ago. You got land speeders, tornadoes, and typhoons. So you still had Typhoon missile launcher on there, and they were cheap and cheerful at 50 points a model. Heavy support. There's a lot of heavy support choices in the Space Marine Codex. You've got Devastators, Predator Annihilators with the twin-linked las cannons, the Destructors, the Vindicators, Land Raiders, or Whirlwinds. One of my friends had a Whirlwind, didn't really do much, but it looked really cool. A couple of mates had Predator Annihilators because they swore by the twin-linked las cannons, and they were very decent. If you had those against a Dreadnought, Dreadnought's going to get killed unless you hide them in cover and stuff. Not many people took Vindicators, and rarer still, anybody took Land Raiders. Land Raiders are now a sort of commonplace on a battlefield. And then you had a Space Marine summary just here. That was it. That was all of your rules in literally all of your data sheets in literally sort of 8 pages. That's just unheard of. That's all of your Space Marine units and everything. Just there. And then you got your summary. Very efficient, very, you don't have a picture of what they look like or anything like that. It was just done and dusted right there. Bit of artwork there, and then choosing a Space Marine army. So here it breaks down all the pictures of the units. One of my favourite parts was when it broke down, different units, and it just gave you the strengths and weaknesses, you see. It's really cool. Expanding your army, so you could expand it. So you could have elites and then fast attack and a heavy support. You got some tactics there. Solid defence, refused flank, all-out attack. And then the chapter colours. So look at all these chapter colours. You got Ultramarines, you got Raven Guard, you got Imperial Fists, Crimson Fists, Black Templars, Size of the Emperor, Iron Hands even. So didn't go into the huge depth of sort of shading and highlighting, but it just gave you the actual colour that you needed to use. How to paint Space Marine, and then gave you some more sort of undercoating tips, basing, making terrain even. And there's more pictures of them, really sort of inspiring stuff. How to paint Space Marine vehicles, an excellent diorama of the Emperor. This is when the Emperor was the size of a Terminator. And this is when Horus was the size of a Terminator. And obviously since they've sort of increased in size. But there we go. Appendix gives you all the information about the war gear and the vehicle upgrades. And then, right at the back here, just out of the blue, you've got the special characters. Marnius Calgar, 168. Nice rounded number there. Ligurius and Cortez and the Emperor's Champion. I got the original Emperor's Champion model. I still have that model now. It's a metal model. Then they brought out a newer version, and that looked cool too. And he was a must for me. I know he was Black Templars, but I just always used him in my army as my HQ, because a 105 point model with the black sword that gives him +1 strength, strength 5, or he could use it double-handed, and then it counted as a power fist. It was just brilliant. And yes, he's only got 2 wounds, but his initiative is 5 and he gets 2 attacks normally. His save of 2+ because he's got the Artificer power armour, and also he can challenge. I mean, that was really sealed the deal for 105 points. Had all this war gear and things already on him. Chaplain Xavier, Lysander. So this was tactical squad. So any tactical squad, you could replace a sergeant for Lysander. And obviously now I think he's Captain Lysander, and he's got Terminator armour and a lovely storm shield and all the rest of it. And that's special characters out of the way. We've got a scenario here, so you've got a Space Marine force and then Defenders force. So Defenders, they get HQ and Elites, that's a must. But the Space Marine, troops and HQ. And it's a planetfall mission. So it uses Deep Strike, Basically, Space Marines deploy. Even troops that cannot normally use deep strike can use it. So there you go, one mission there, and then you get some information, some bit of backstory and things. So a little bit less than what you're sort of used to, just a couple of pages, and then you get the Ultramarines chapter, or you know, some description of them. So here you've got your first company, your veterans. So you've got 8 veteran sergeants, 87 veteran Marines, 74 tactical dreadnought suits. That's 74 Terminators basically, 7 Land Raiders. It didn't sort of just threw numbers out at you, not like it is today. But there you go. And then you've actually got this about the Space Marines. So it was very much Ultramarines focused, even though the front cover you've got the Crimson Fist. It was very, very sort of Ultramarines, yeah, this blue army, you know, with the chapter and everything. But then this thing here, you've got your Primarchs and the Worlds and the second founding chapters, you see. Obviously there's 2 here that are expunged from the library. Just incredible. And finally, you've got some daily rituals and some more pictures and some more photos of the units. And that was it. That, you know, you had everything from your army list, your hobby section, your special characters, and then a scenario. So very, very thin on the ground in today's standards, all for sort of £8 or £10. But I loved it. Back in 1998, 19 years ago, I absolutely loved this. This was my, you know, this was my first introduction of the hobby, and just fantastic starting block. You know, I never ever thought that I'd have an army as big as I do. I never even thought I'd work for Games Workshop. Never even thought that I'd have a YouTube channel and things. I mean, it's got Games Workshop's website there, but it refers to it as World Wide Web. You know, so the internet was pretty new back then. And yeah, no, I never thought in a million years that I'd get to this stage. You know, you type in, you know, large Space Marine army or huge Space Marine army into Google, mine's like the first result that you get. That's just, well, I never thought that it would come to that. Anyway, let's just compare it to the new, old versus new. So, you know, for starters, you've got the black and white, which just runs through the whole book. This full colour everywhere. I mean, look at the data sheets. Let's just compare Marneus Calgar with Marneus Calgar. The reason why I am comparing Marneus Calgar is because, there we go, it's because the model changed. Now, the model before was this small model, which is there, which is right there, look. So you compare that model with that awesomeness. I mean, that's absolutely awesome model. Really lovely model. Compare it to that one. Just looks like a guy in power armour that, you know, has 2 power fists with little bolt pistols strapped on. He looks like he's in Terminator armour with all the bling and all the rest of it. But rules-wise, he went up drastically from 168 points to 275. His weapon skill went up by 1. Everything else stayed the same though. However, it shows his war gear. It gives him a power sword. He's got his iron halo. He gets this orbital strike now. Obviously, he's got these warlord traits. Master tactician. He's an eternal warrior. Never falls back. Doesn't have this on here, but he's got no fear. And his gauntlets, he used to just get an extra attack in close combat. Bolters fire the same as a storm bolter. Similar to there. However, it's AP2. And his armour doesn't prevent sweeping advances and includes a teleport homer, which is just fantastic. So although he's more points, definitely worth it. Let's just compare something like a Land Raider. So Land Raider, 250 points. Obviously now we've got Land Raiders in lots of different flavours. So your typical Land Raider, 250 points. Same stats, 14 all round, hull points 4. So they introduced the hull point system. So that made tanks and vehicles much more survivable, because before you hit a Land Raider and you get a penetrating hit on a 6 and it would be destroyed. Doesn't happen nowadays. It's got the same weaponry, but it's got assault vehicle and power of machine spirit. Can still carry the 10 models, or 5 Terminators, so that's similar, and still similar sort of. And it was new for this codex, I believe. It can take a multi-melter, where I don't think it could ever take a multi-melter in the old version. But a Land Raider pretty much is similar, obviously with the exception of the hull points and the assault vehicle and power of machine spirit. Power of machine spirit did give it a considerable buff. So Land Raiders haven't really changed an awful lot. Let's have a look at troops. So let's just have a look at your typical Space Marine. So a tactical squad. They are actually cheaper. You get 70 points for 5 of them. And that comes with a sergeant. But the sergeant has exactly the same stat line. You can still get a veteran sergeant, similar to the older version. Again, same stat line. They've got the 4 across the board, with the 1 attack and the leadership 8 and the save of 3. Same war gear. However, back then you had to sort of add an additional point for grenades. Now they get the frag and crack grenades. They've got the They Shall Know No Fear, which is sort of highlighted at the start of that codex. They've got the chapter tactics and combat squad. So the chapter tactics is their buff, where they can just pick a chapter's tactics basically. But cheaper overall, 14 points compared to the 15, and then the 15 plus the grenade. So it's actually better to use them in the newer version. But of course they can take drop pods, razorbacks, rhinos. Well, they could take rhinos and razorbacks in the older version. Also these heavy weapons though. You get the heavy grav cannons and things like that. But overall, you've got so many options now. Just in the troops alone, you've got your troop, your tactical, your scout, your crusader. But one thing I will just share with you is the amount of elites that are in the new book compared to the old. Now in the old book, you just had your Terminators, your Dreadnought and your veterans. In the new book, the command squad is in there as elites, an honour guard, centurions, vanguard veteran squads, stern guard veteran squads, your dreadnoughts, but your venerable dreadnoughts. Venerable dreadnoughts just simply did not exist in the old codex. You then got ironclad dreadnoughts, specifically siege dreadnoughts. You got your Legion of the Damned. Then you got your Terminators and your Terminator assault squads. And that's it. So there's so many more elites there. And also flyers as well. We can't forget the flyers. So flyers, I mean, before you only really had some fast attack options, which included a land speeder of 3 flavours. Now you get your scout land speeder storm, your normal land speeders, of course, which are still the original sort of three flavours. But you now get a storm talon gunship, and you get a storm raven. And then if you go one step further, you've got Storm Eagles, Fire Raptors, Xiphon Interceptors, Thunderhawks and Stormbirds even. I mean, Stormbirds were sort of like a thing of myth at one point. But now you can actually get a physical model of them. So compared to the old Codex from 19 years ago, almost 20 years ago, things have changed considerably. Not only from the sort of black and white with some colour, but just the quality of the books, the quality of the pages, the artwork, the fluff, all the rules. Yes, it is an expensive hobby, and it's one of the points I want to make, that it is very expensive, hobby nowadays. But look where we've come from to sort of understand that. Some may say that it is overpriced, and some people just simply can't afford it. But just look at where we've come from. The amount of people that are involved in a book like this compared to an older book, and then you look at the new Forge World books too, at which I'll be doing a comparison with your standard Games Workshop book at some point. I want to make a comparison video for all of these Space Marine codexes, if I can. So what are your thoughts and things? Do you have fond memories of this Space Marine Codex? Put them in the comments below. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching. The Emperor protects.